Welcome to Beyond the Broadsheet, a podcast by the Lincoln County News. We are a community newspaper based in Midcoast, Maine, and we provide the most comprehensive, in-depth coverage available anywhere of the 18 towns and one plantation that make up Lincoln County. My name is Piper Pavelich, and I'm a reporter here at the Lincoln County News.
And my name is Molly Rames. I'm also a reporter here at the Lincoln County News. And in the background, we have Alan Roberts here.
He'll just be hanging out. Today, we're going to hear some of the top stories from our March 6th edition. Molly, can you give me a little teaser about what we're going to hear in the second segment, though?
Yes. I have some information I'm excited to share about brown-tailed moth caterpillars.
Oh, the bane of my existence in the summer.
Here in the Midcoast, we have these little critters, these little cute little fuzzy caterpillars that actually cause rashes and like eye irritation and respiratory irritation. And I spoke with Sarah Gladue, the Director of Education and Community Science at Coastal Rivers Conservation Trust, about how we can all right now, literally right now, before the leaves come out, take action to decrease the prevalence of brown-tailed moth, which are dangerous and annoying and all that.
So everybody stay tuned throughout this whole thing so you can hear about that.
Yes, but first we have some stories from this week's edition of the paper.
Yeah.
And starting with something that Jonathan Riley, another reporter, attended, which was a pretty large protest on the Twin Villages Bridge on Saturday, March 1st between Damariscotta and Newcastle.
Yeah, I'm hearing there were a couple hundred people in attendance, up to 400 potentially, which is wild considering I'm picturing the bridge in my mind. And I'm like, how did you fit all those people along that street? That is wild. But yeah, it sounds like they were there to protest President Donald Trump's political agenda. The event was planned by Lincoln County Indivisible, which is a chapter of the nationwide group Indivisible, which was founded in 2016 in response to Trump's first election. And it sounds like their next rally is going to be at the same place at noon on Saturday, March 8th. So that'll have already happened when this comes out. But
well, you know more than us then.
Yeah, right.
And Piper, you spoke with some folks at the Morris Farm.
I did. I spoke with some people from the Maine Farmland Trust who recently purchased the farm. That sale closed on February 27th, and they had raised about $300,000 for the project. They'll be putting out a request for proposals for farmers who are interested in being on the property pretty soon. So
Piper, when you originally spoke with them, I don't remember when that was, but I know
in July.
In July.
Yeah.
Wow. Was this on the table at that time?
Yeah. So they had a sort of public information session with the Morris Farm Trust board at the time, and they were all talking about this sale and what it would mean for the future of the farm. And at the time, they said that the sale would close around August or September, but it would seem that they had some issues arise with the title that they obviously didn't see coming, so it took a little more time, but they finally got it done, and now I guess we're going to be moving forward, and hopefully we'll see some activity at the farm pretty soon because it's been closed to the public since November 2023. So
yeah, that's a long time. And
it is a long time.
It's nice to hear that things are happening.
Yeah.
Awesome. Also in the southern Lincoln County beat, which is Piper's
Me again.
forte, we have a new principal at Dresden.
Yeah, Erica St. Peter. She started on February 24th. And I got to go to the school and talk to her about how her first week went. Sounds like she's just busy getting to know everybody and getting to know the school. So it was very nice to meet her. She replaces Eric Gray, who was the principal from August to December 2024, and he had resigned to return to his previous position as assistant principal at Edward Little High School in Auburn. So I think people were a bit surprised to see that he was up and leaving, but, supported his choice and have supported Erica so far. And this is actually the first time she is working outside of RSU 18.
Oh,
She was working for that school district for the past 28 years or so.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's a whole career for some people.
Absolutely, yeah. And then she ended her time in the school district as a teacher in China, Maine, and she missed being in an administrator role, and she saw this job opening and went for it.
Wow.
So
Yeah, you have this quote from her. I tease my family and they tease me with the fact that if I could go to school forever, I would. And essentially I am.
yeah, she loves school. She has always loved school.
That's awesome.
She said that if she could just go to school forever, she would.
Wow.
So
well,
this
yeah.
is her way of doing that.
What do you think it takes to be an administrator for so long?
I don't know. It takes, I'm sure, a good amount of confidence in your skill and the abilities of your staff, and a true passion for, guiding children to the next phase of their lives, no matter what age they are. So,
Yeah.
she seems very dedicated, and I think that Dresden is lucky to have her. So,
Totally. Aw.
Yeah.
Speaking of lucky to have, we're going to have some action at the location of Schooner
Oh my
this
gosh.
summer, which makes me really happy.
Yeah, Jonathan wrote that one, but of course he's not here, so we'll talk about what we know.
We'll do our best. Well, he was at the meeting of the Damascotta Planning Board on Monday, March 3rd, which is when Scott Folsom presented plans to rebuild the pier, which is if you've been under a rock, where Schooner used to be. And there was a devastating fire here in September that totally took out the whole pier, the restaurant. It was eventually ruled accidental in November, with the probable cause being electrical circuitry under the pier. And it was extremely devastating. They removed upwards of 200 tons of debris from that site. And it was also really emotionally difficult for everybody, obviously, because it's such a centrally located spot with so many local connections, including Jonathan Riley, who couldn't be with us today, but bartended there for a long time. So,
yeah. It sounds like they'll have about 18 months from when the fire happened to rebuild a non-conforming structure while, they're constructing the new.
Yes, because of the location and the orientation of the site is not in line with the current version of Damascotta's shoreline zoning ordinance, so they have to kind of move quickly in order to rebuild that within what's allowed, which is really interesting. And it sounds like they are on track to do that. Yeah. It's going to be a bit smaller than the previous footprint, with current plans putting it at about 800 square feet and extending 10 feet less to the south. But other than that, it'll be in the same site. And they are also going to raise it 2 feet because they want to accommodate increasingly high tides and strong weather events, which we have been seeing, especially in that area.
Yeah. So, it sounds like come this summer, they'll have a food truck on site.
I'm really happy about this.
Me too.
Because that was the question, was like, what's going to happen in the meantime?
Yeah, but, it sounds like they were always going to make a comeback. So, it's finally happening.
Yeah. And the outside bar that wasn't damaged is still going to be operational.
Yay! So everybody plan a trip to Schooner.
And just so you can mark your calendars, they're hoping that the pier construction will be complete by Monday, May 25th, which is Memorial Day.
Perfect. Oh my goodness. I'm so excited. Okay.
It'll make a big difference for having Damascotta whole again.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, we have a character this week, Gary Blackman Sr., a local guitar player.
Which is perfect because our associate editor, Sherwood Olin, wrote this piece, and he is also a musician.
Yeah, Sherwood's a bass player, and he knows the scene.
Oh, yes. Yes, he does. Yes.
And Gary Blackman's clearly part of that. He plays traditional country music, kind of along the lines of Merle Haggard, who I'm a big fan of. And he also puts Facebook live streams on Friday nights, playing old 45 records, which is something I didn't know about. That is really exciting that he's doing.
Yeah, that sounds fun. Everybody make sure to tune into the next one.
Yeah. Find him on Facebook and jam out. I mean, it's Friday as we're recording this, so we might have to.
The next Friday. Any Friday.
Yeah, every Friday.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm glad he could be on our front page this week.
In our sports section, we had the track and field championships, New England Indoor Track and Field Championships. And I just have to say that I commend anybody who races at Reggie Lewis Track and Field Center in Boston. Oh. Because it's a really nice indoor track. It's just racing on an indoor track. Maybe I just don't like indoor track. It's just so difficult. And it's always so crowded when you go there and everybody's like nervous. And but we had some local people with some really good showings. Yeah, they pushed through, whether they like to run indoor track or not. I feel like in many cases it's kind of like something you do to stay fit in the winter and continue running. Yeah. We have Booth Bay Regional High School sophomore Karen Higgins, who ran 11:37:27 in the 2-mile and came in 19th. That's amazing. That's just over less than 6 minute per mile pace. She's fast for 2 miles, and you're running inside. Yeah, and it's incredidly loud. Yeah. So, and Jordan Anderson, a senior at Lincoln Academy, was 34th in the boys 55-meter dash with the time of 6 seconds, 6.79 seconds. Oh my gosh. So traveling at the speed of light, practically. Amazing. Just to set the scene, and then I'll stop talking about Reggie Lewis, but it traumatized me. You're like, I guess it's just track. But like to do the 55, they line them up in the middle of the track. Yeah. And there's also bleachers rising really high. And because it's inside, the sound is so loud. And this is such a fast race. It's a big, super atmospheric, very intense. I know. You having just said that, I can't imagine how loud the applause must have been. And also like thinking about Mick taking their picture. Oh, moving through that crowded space, like that's crazy. And specifically for Jordan, if Mick got a picture of it, he had 6 seconds. Yeah, to do true. That's a big if. I don't know. I haven't seen it. I have no idea. Yes. And we have in other sports news, first year at Madomic Valley placed 36th out of 88 in the boys slalom at the Class A Alpine State Championships. That's Parker Eaton. Dang. That's so cool. That's very cool. I'm not super well versed in skiing, but the times that I have skied, I've tried so hard not to fall over. So I commend these students for doing this. Yeah, totally. He races he races as an independent, but he trains with Camden Hills Regional High School team because Madomic doesn't have... My alma mater, Camden Hills. Shout out. Oh, my goodness. Piper, did you ever ski at the Camden Snow Bowl? Yes, I did. Wow. Yeah, when I was younger, back in the day. Well, this seems pretty serious. They start in December conditioning and train 3 days a week at Camden Snow Bowl, which is amazing. And because they don't have a team at Madomic, it sounds like his classmates are just learning about him and what he's doing as he's having all this success, which is really exciting. Yeah. Oh my gosh. He started skiing when he was 18 months old. What? I didn't know you could do that. How does that work? I don't know, but good for him. Wow. A champion. Very cool. To be a champion, you got to start young. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. He's been waiting for this moment all his life. Yes. Oh, goodness. What else happened in the news this week? Oh, I want to tell you about this new coffee shop that opened in Wiscasset. I want to hear about it. I went over there on opening day on February 28th, and the owner, Kaylee Haggett, she was so nice, made me a wonderful iced chai latte, and we just gabbed about, what she was doing. And she's got a great story. She was in a job that she didn't feel was fully fulfilling. So she took a step back, thought about what she wanted to do, went to her husband, was like, I want to open this coffee shop. And he has supported her the entire way through. It's amazing. Really beautiful. What did she say she was looking for that a coffee shop could provide? Well, she loved the idea of being her own boss. And she also just loves a good cup of coffee. That's fair. And if no one else can do it to your standards, you got to take it into your own hands.
Yeah, exactly. And she was talking about how there was kind of a need for more coffee places that you could stop at in Wiscasset because there's Treats downtown, which is, she said, is a lovely place with a good cup of coffee, but downtown parking can be a nightmare.
Yeah, you can't really like casually pass through.
Yeah.
Most of the time, especially in the summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Kaylee's store is going to be open every day from 7 to 3. It's on the way to the Wiscasset Middle High School if you're a student needing to pick me up in the morning on the way to school, or maybe a teacher being like, I need a good cup of coffee after this crazy day.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Good. Well, I'm excited to go.
Yeah.
Sometime after we produce the paper.
Yeah.
We'll have to stop in.
And she sources her coffee from Coffee on the Porch, which is a Camden company.
Oh.
For those that don't know, I'm from the Camden area. I worked at French and Braun Marketplace in high school, and the owner of Coffee on the Porch used to come in and stock the shelves with his coffee.
Aww.
So I've talked to him before. So that was something Kaylee and I talked about.
Oh, nice. Like a real local, like keeping it local.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Keeping
awesome.
it local. Yeah.
Nice. Well, speaking of things we don't want to keep local, I think I'd like to talk about some invasive caterpillars.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
So-
give it to us, Molly.
Are you you're familiar with brown-tailed moths?
Oh my gosh. Every time I hear someone say brown-tail moth, I recall this one summer where I got a brown-tail moth rash on my face. It was painful. It was dry.
Yeah.
And of course, it being summer, I was sweating all the time. And I was like, this is the worst.
Yeah, I've never experienced it, knock on wood.
Oh,
but I have
don't
had
want to.
poison ivy, and I've heard people say it's similar to that.
interesting. I haven't had poison ivy, so.
Well, it's interesting that you being born, well, not born, raised in the mid-coast. Sorry, Piper.
Yeah, geez, calling me out.
A Midwesterner raised in the mid-coast, and you have had it because the brown-tailed moth was introduced to the U.S. In the late 1800s. And it was at one point pretty ubiquitous in the Northeast, but they have tried to eradicate it because of reasons we'll talk about. You don't want this critter around. And they were pretty successful. And at this point, it's found only in Maine and Cape Cod in Massachusetts.
I need to move.
Which is very funny to me. I mean, progress is being made, but at this point, the mid-coast is one of the regions where it's still found.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I know. We're very unfortunate here. We have to stay on the lookout. And what the brown-tailed moth is, it's this invasive caterpillar species. It eventually becomes the brown-tailed moth. But in its larval form, the brown-tailed moth caterpillar has these hairs on its body that it sheds when it starts to undergo metamorphosis. And if you come into contact with them on your skin, it can cause this really uncomfortable rash, which is what you were describing. You can also breathe them in and have some problems in your lungs, which is kind of...
I can't imagine what that would be like.
I know. It's kind of like they say when you're burning yard waste, you have to be careful not to burn poison ivy, So it's pretty concerning, and they have different effects on different people. There's a toxin in the hairs that makes it all worse.
They look nice and fluffy. Don't go near them.
Yeah, so they're a big concern. It's like, I think also for those reasons that we've just talked about in terms of like you don't want to come into contact with them yourself, but then also in terms of forest health, these caterpillars eat leaves, and let's see if I can remember this species they like. They're big fans of oak trees in particular, and they'll also eat apple tree leaves, crab apples. Oh, here it is. Shadbush, birch, poplar, cherry, and rose bushes as they're gaining strength and ready to go into their pupa. So they can actually really reduce the amount of foliage on a tree if you have like a severe infestation.
Yeah.
So I spoke with Sarah Gladu, who's the Director of Education and Community Science at Coastal Rivers Conservation Trust, about this issue. And I just wanted to hear a bit about what she's experienced and observed in the Mid-Coast, especially in the peninsula area around the Twin Villages and beyond. And she said that they are definitely a problem here. And it kind of, the amount that we see them kind of comes and goes because there's a lot of other factors too, like weather. If we have a really wet spring, there might be some fungi that kind of keep them at bay, but really they have been a problem. And she was saying that in a particular oak forest in, I think it was South Bristol, a few years back, two seasons ago, she saw a patch of forest that they had really like stripped the leaves of almost completely.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, which is obviously concerning just for the health of the trees.
Yeah.
And then when you couple that with the fact that we're dealing with a lot of invasive species here because of climate change and changing weather patterns, it can really be devastating. Because if you have like, maybe you have a healthy forest and some brown-tailed moths come through and eat all the leaves, like, okay, that's fine, maybe.
Maybe.
The trees are amazing and they can rejuvenate themselves and regenerate all of those leaves that were eaten within one season, which is crazy.
Wow.
Like going from naked trees to spring again.
Dang.
But as you can imagine, that takes a lot of energy. So if they have to do that again, like if another species like winter moth, which is a big problem here, were to come through and defoliate them again, which is possible, it happens, they're around, then those trees are even more weakened and a lot of the energy that they might have needed to get through the winter or rejuvenate in the spring is gone. So it's a big concern. So the reason I was talking to her about this now, when we don't have any leaves on the trees at all, and it's not really front of mind, is because February is considered Brown-tailed Moth Awareness Month.
Interesting. What does that mean exactly?
I don't know who named that. I think it was a conservation organization at the state level, perhaps. But it's a good time to start thinking about brown-tailed moths because in the wintertime, the caterpillars all get together. They're tent caterpillars, which means they all spin. Piper's making a disgusted face.
I'm just imagining it. I'm like, ugh.
To get through the winter, they go into their quote-unquote tent, which they weave with all of their silk at the ends of branches. And they all get together and they stay in there until the springtime.
This sounds so cute and nice.
Well, it is cute and nice. You know, it's just the fact that unfortunately these guys aren't meant to be around here. They were brought in with by humans, you know, classic. Ugh. Yeah. So so they hang out at the ends of branches over the winter. They're in this kind of like sleepy state. And in the springtime, they'll come out and start eating those fresh leaves. But the reason why February is a good time to be out on the lookout for them, and March, is that you can find the nests really easily because the leaves aren't hiding them, and then snip them right out of the trees.
Okay, so theoretically, you can get rid of them yourself.
Yeah, in the wintertime.
Gotcha.
I mean, the theoretically is a big caveat because sometimes they're really high up and you can't reach them. And also, it's really important to make sure that you are identifying the right nests and not the nests of caterpillars that are native and are meant to be here. Because as Sarah Gladue said, we have a lot of native caterpillars that are super, super important, both in terms of like the richness of our insect ecosystems here and also in terms of feeding all the birds that are going to be arriving really soon to migrate north, and they need caterpillars to eat, so we don't want to take all the good ones away. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So if you're looking for brown-tailed moth caterpillar nests, you're going to want to look at the ends of twigs and branches for these bundles of white silk, and a lot of the time they're kind of woven around a leaf or a couple leaves to create that little characteristic tent. They're 2 to 5 inches long. And we have some reference pictures on our website that accompany this article, or you can just look up brown-tailed moth nest so that you can just be extra sure. I think the key is that they're at the ends of the branches, which is uncommon.
So to remove them, you can just cut them down?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, if you can reach them, you can cut them out. And then how you handle them is really important because you don't want to like put them in a pile of yard waste and can like wash your hands of the problem because they'll just wake up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can either get a burn permit and burn the clippings. A bit sad. We won't think about that.
Yeah.
Or you can put them in, I think, dish soap and let them sit for a couple days, like some soapy water.
Yeah.
Because something about that, they can't survive and they will die.
That sounds so sad,
It is
but they're
sad.
such a nuisance.
I know, I always
can't
get sad.
I can't pick a side. I don't know what to do.
It's a really hard conversation when we're talking about invasive species.
Yeah.
Even the terminology invasive species, we could call them introduced to be a bit more neutral. But it's complicated because clearly it's not those caterpillars' fault.
Yeah.
And yet, because of the actions of humans, they have the potential to really wreak havoc on the natural world here.
We ruined it.
Yep. As per usual.
So when you are removing these, is there a risk of, of touching them and like getting the skin rash while they're still in the nest?
Unfortunately, even though this is something we're talking about now because they're all hiding away, you could still get the hairs on you. So the Maine State Department of Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry recommends that you wear eye protection, skin protection, and gloves.
Basically, hazmat suited up and get in there.
Be really careful because everybody has different reactions to this. If you don't know how you're going to react to these caterpillars and you don't want to risk it, you don't have to. You can also call a professional. There's pest control people who are pros at this and know how to handle them. And there's also, if it's like, you notice a bunch of nests and leaves near your house and you want to take care of them, but they're too high to reach. There are some people, some professionals who know how to administer pesticides to the tree that will kill the caterpillars when they wake up. So there's a lot of different ways to go about this, but I think it's really important to at least know to check those species, those oaks, shadbush, birch, poplar, cherry, rose, and apple trees. If you have them on your property, just give them a once over before the leaves come out and you might get an unwelcome surprise.
Surprise!
But it is cool because if we all work together and everybody keeps an eye out for these, we could really make a difference because it's like very encouraging to me that even though this species was so widespread at one point throughout most of New England, and I think further, to be honest, if I'm remembering correctly, at this point, we've gotten them back to just the mid-coast and southern Maine and Cape Cod.
All right, guys, come on. We have to end this.
We can't be the last holdout. Let's go.
Get your clippers ready. Get your goggles ready. Your gloves.
And as we're cutting, we can say, I know it's not your fault, guys. But you have to go. They're originally from Europe. I couldn't remember. Native to Europe, Asia, and Africa. And accidentally introduced to Somerville, Massachusetts in 1897.
Accidentally.
Yeah. They were under control from basically the 1920s to the 1990s. And then they started...
what the heck happened?
I know. Maybe climate change?
Oh, maybe.
Who knows? I'm just speculating. But I really hope that I hope that we all take action now. And then we have a great brown-tailed moth-free summer.
A dream.
Last year was hot girl summer. This year's brown-tailed moth-free, also hot girl.
You tell it, Molly. Well, thank you for the little lesson on the brown-tailed moths. I know. Course. I'm sure most of us deal with them every summer and haven't really thought before that we could get rid of them.
I know. I was surprised when I heard that it was Brown-tailed Moth Awareness Month in February. I was like, why?
Why?
We're safe right now.
Yeah.
But
I wasn't thinking about it. Now I have to be aware.
Yeah, awareness is our job.
Yep. There you go.
Well, thanks, Piper. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, of course. Ever since I got that face rash, I just need to know how to keep myself safe.
Well, we and our listeners will do our best. Awesome. Thanks, Piper.
Thank you for listening to Beyond the Broadsheet, a podcast by the Lincoln County News. Production support is provided by Tyler Davis of Tyality Productions. Theme music by Stu Mahan and Sherwood Olin.
Have a question or a suggestion? Email us at info@lcnme.com. And if you haven't already, please be sure to rate and subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen.
This has been a Lincoln County Publishing Company production.